So today I'm not starting with music. I want to just be very vulnerable and honest with you on an emotional level. What is it like when somebody has been abused, like I was abused, to recover? What does it take? I had promised, I guess the Lord, myself, I really don't know. I had made a very firm promise that I would never tell my parents what had happened to me, because they threatened in the coven to do to my parents what I'd seen them do to other people if I ever told. And so, although I remembered the coven, I remembered that evil had gone on in the coven. I actually was able at one point in my life, when I was only 9 years old, to direct my parents how to get to the town, which was a half hour away from our town, to the street, to the house. But that's another story, what happened. So there's no question that it's real. But I didn't remember all the details of what had happened. And I had promised myself I would not remember. And so it wasn't until my parents died, it was around my 55th birthday that the Lord, it was on my 55th birthday actually, that the Lord revealed what had happened. And what happened is he said to me, "It's your birthday, let's go have fun. We're going to the beach. I have a special surprise for you." And we went to the beach, and I saw two men walking towards me with surfboards. And I saw myself torturing them with a pitchfork to death. And all my life I had struggled, even after I came to faith, all my life I had struggled with terrible dreams at night of torturing people. And I couldn't stop them, no matter what I did, no matter how much I prayed, no matter how much people prayed for me, nothing helped. I want you to hear this. Nothing helped. I loved Jesus. I'd responded to an altar call. I'd surrendered my life to him. And I was tortured by these dreams of torturing people. And now here it is. And he brought me to this on my birthday. And I just said, some birthday present, Lord. And I heard him say inside myself with the sweetest, kindest voice, "This is who you've always thought yourself to be. But this is not who you are. This is what happened to you." My eyes were opened, and I was able to see a really big extent of all that had happened to me. And what I thought had only been 2 weeks turned out that it had not only been 2 weeks, because I had been programmed to be a receiver and a transmitter of the demonic. And even, hear this, even after I came to faith, those mechanisms in my brain were still functioning. I was still being a receiver of the demonic, and I was still being a transmitter of the demonic. And that's why I kept having these dreams of torturing people to death. I was involved with so much junk, and had been my whole life, undercover. My conscious mind did not know any of this was going on. In my unconscious, continuously being programmed to be a vessel for the demonic. Now, you've got people in your churches who are like this. And they will hear, once you come to faith, the old has passed away, and you're a new person. And they don't know what to do with themselves, because they believe in Jesus. They're following Jesus. And why is this happening to them? And they're being taught that either their faith isn't real, either they really didn't come to faith, so they're an imposter, or all of this is a fabric like hallucinations. They're schizophrenic. There's something wrong with their mind. There's no place to help them. So I did some research, just a little research. The verb tense in Greek that is used in that passage, all old things have passed away. That's from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, is the aorist tense. We don't have a similar tense in English. It's an activity that began, but we don't know exactly when it ends. So I was praying to the Lord about this. I said, Lord, we need to understand in the church, people like myself. People need to have a grid to know how to help people like myself. Can you explain this to me? And he said, it's very simple. He said, when the Israelites came to the promised land, I said, here, it's yours. I blessed them with it. It was a done action. It was finished. It's yours. But it wasn't. They had to go in, and it took more than one generation. They had to go in, and they had to defeat the enemy, in my case, the demons, the enemy that was there, town by town, hill by hill, valley by valley, as much as they could handle, one step at a time, and they never finished. But prayerfully, we do finish. I know some people who've gone through the same kind of experiences that I went through. They come to faith and it's done. That's a reality. And that's a wonderful reality. They are one person before they say the salvation prayer, and they are another person after they finish saying it, and their lives are 180 degrees different. I know some people who maybe they take a week or two or a month or two to get healed. My friends, it took me a decade. It took me a decade of very solid work. I had thousands of parts inside myself, and they all wanted attention, and they were all broken, and they were all scared to death of Jesus Christ because most of them had met a false Jesus Christ who was anything but nice. And so there was a whole process that had to go on of gaining their trust, of developing relationship, of bringing them to the Father through the Son, of seeing them getting healed, of them repenting, of them forgiving, of them releasing. And it started slowly, one part, another part, another part, then hundreds of parts at once. Then literally it seemed like thousands of parts at once. And then you think it's all done. And then a whole other passage of time happens and a whole other bunch of junk surfaces. It took a long time. And because the congregation that I was associated with believed what I said at the beginning, they could only assume that I was mad or that I really had not been saved. And so I was a very scary person for them. So I ended up going through this process alone because most of my friends were a part of that congregation and they were not allowed to see me. People who've been through what I've been through can act really strange. One moment they're nice, one moment they're kind, one moment they're talking to you about how much they love Jesus. The next moment they can be curled up in a ball on the floor, screaming and shaking, and you don't know why. And really what they need is people to understand them and people to help them. They need Jesus with skin on. So I want to try to explain to you today a bit of the fabric of my brain during all of that. So what the enemy would do to me is they would do something really horrible that was wrapped around with something really nice. So they would manage to entice me that we were going to have a nice moment now. Nothing bad was going to happen. And they would convince me that this person who was with me, let's say, was like a mom to me. She was going to treat me well, and she would. She would be very kind, and maybe we'd go out shopping. Maybe we'd do something nice. And the next thing I know, it turns absolutely horrible, evil to the nth degree, and it ends in the end with them being really nice again. So they are training my brain to think that evil is good and good is evil. In the midst of this, they're introducing me to a fake Jesus Christ because they knew I believed in Jesus Christ. And they are doing all kinds of shock treatments and things to my brain to confuse all the synapses and to put in their synapses. And then they're causing me to covenant to different demons with everything that they're doing. So all these different parts that they're created are all now controlled by demons. Then they set up structures inside of all the parts. So now I've got lots of parts that they're creating. And now they set up structures within all these parts. So the parts can communicate when they want, the way they want, only how they want. And then they program the parts to keep duplicating and duplicating and duplicating and duplicating and duplicating. And they bring in more and 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 more little demons who act like they're my friends, and I like them, and I make relationships with them. And I have really craziness going on in my brain because I've got hundreds of little characters inside of myself that are not me, that are all evil, that I'm busy having a relationship with. Then what they do, you've heard of ley lines. So what they do is they create communication lines between myself and other people who are similarly programmed and people who are in charge and all kinds of demonic structures. And there's whole cities in the demonic, in the spirit realm that they are creating, and everybody in it has a role. Everybody in it has a position, just like we all have a place on God's walls. We all have connections in the spirit. Believers all have connections through somebody in the spirit. The demonic does the exact same thing. Okay. I come to faith. I surrender it all. I choose Jesus Christ. My life is renewed. Trigger, 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 trigger. Somebody's getting saved. Somebody's getting saved. Let's flood all the synapses. Let's challenge all the synapses. Let's create confusion in their brain. Help, help, help. Everybody come help. We're about to lose one. Do you see what goes on? And then the church says to you, oh, but you're really not saved because you're so crazy inside. All those little parts inside of me were created through satanic rituals, were created through abuse, and are a result of pain. And all those little parts inside of myself want to be set free. It's scary. It's scary when it's you, and you have all these voices that start talking to you. But they all want to get out of prison. They all need to forgive their perpetrators. I've been talking a lot about forgiveness. Maybe now you see why. They all need to forgive their perpetrators. They need to forgive each other, and those within each other have been abusing them. They need to forgive themselves. They need to ask God and Christ to forgive themselves because of all the awful things they've done. And they need to release all of that. And they need to go into Jesus' arms of grace. And at first, as I said, I did it one at a time. And then tens, and then hundreds, and then thousands. Then I had to take down all the structures that the demons had created. And of course, Jesus helps with all of this. You're not doing any of this on your own. It's like, it's like, okay, Jesus, what are we doing now? Jesus, what are we doing now? Jesus, what are we doing now? What are we taking down now? And he would show me the structures And we would tear them all down together. Then he'd show me the ley lines, and we'd tear all those things down together. Then he'd show me the triggers that had been put in my brain so that no matter what I did, it could all be recreated in an instant. And then we'd take down all the triggers. And then they showed me what they had done with the elements, with water, with air, with fire and earth, and all those things needed to be taken down. And then the hardest things to take down, to release, were the little demonic entities who I thought were my friends. They were the only friends I had because I was so weird nobody else would be my friend. And I had to let them go. And everybody would tell me that I was working with, because I did get help, obviously, everybody would tell me, they're just pretending to be nice, they're wicked. And I go, no, they're really nice. They do this, they do that, they bring me this. No, they make my life much better. And they'd say, well, no, they're really just wicked and evil. And I go, well, it took a long time for me to understand that they were really ungodly. And I had to let them go. And as I'd let them go, I really grieved, like you would grieve a family member who died. And yes, they were wicked. And yes, they were evil. And yes, they had no desire to really bless me and help me. But it took a while for me to understand that. And all while this is going on, I'm learning more about Jesus' love for me. I'm learning more about how he wants to connect with me. I'm learning more about how I can trust him. And eventually, it reached a point where I didn't have to do the work anymore. I could just surrender it all to him. It's like, here, Daddy, it's yours. I don't need it. I don't want it. And you could say to me, why couldn't I do that the first day? And the only answer I can give you is because I couldn't. I didn't trust him enough. Why hadn't he been there for me when I was 6 years of age? How come it was going to be different now? And these little parts inside of me, they didn't trust him at all. So I simply couldn't. So it took years until I could go, here, Daddy. It's yours, here, Yeshua. It's yours. I don't need to think about this anymore. I don't need to hold on to it anymore. I'm loved. I'm your daughter. That's who I am. I'm your bride, and that's not sexually perverse. That's just love. I'm your messenger. And I can share this message with the world. Because the world needs to know what goes on. So now let me tell you what's going on in the world right now. People are on their phones, they're on the internet, they're watching television, whatever they're doing, and there's messages going on. I'm sorry, I am not, how do I say this? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm telling you from experience what I went through. In everything, or in many things, not everything, in many things, there are messages going up. People are being subliminally programmed. Oh yes, COVID is very dangerous. If we don't take the vaccine, we're gonna die. Oh yes, did you know some people died? Well yes, people die of any illness. But the way that we're reacting is the way people act when they're programmed. The way nations are succumbing to financial collapse is the way people act when they're programmed. It's exactly what happened to my brain. Oh, now this country is going to decide that they can kill children under the age of 12 if they have some terminal illness because the doctor says so. And there's actually laws being passed about that. Oh, yes. They're not old enough to make the decision for themselves. We have to make the decision. The doctors are the right ones. Oh yes, parents are no longer allowed, maybe in Canada, as of this week, I think. I don't know when it, maybe not, maybe yes, I don't know. There's a vote coming up. Parents are not allowed to even tell their children what sex they are. Oh, this is the way it started in Nazi Germany. Oh, yes, the Jews, they all kill their children. They'll boil our children in oil and drink the blood. I mean, that was the programming that started in the 1930s. It's the exact same thing happening now. It's the exact same thing that happened to me. We must wake up. We must all start praying that the demonic forces cannot influence our brains. We must all start praying that the demonic powers over and around us cannot get through Jesus' blood within us. God gives us dominion, my friends. There's a reason I've been talking about this. He doesn't just go in and go, oh, well, I'm going to protect them. I wish he did, but he doesn't. Take your place. You are called to take your place. Take your place on the wall. You say no. God supports your choice. Never forget the power and the authority that he's given to you. Claim it for yourselves and walk in it. Be his messengers of truth. He will fill you so full of who he is that the demonic can't get near you. And then you'll hear God in heaven laugh when the demonic tries, because they can't touch you. All right. Now, I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to ask you to have a conversation with God about this. You don't need to take me at my word. There is no reason to take me at my word. It is my experience. I am telling you from my life. Take what I have said to the Lord and let him show you what you are supposed to do. What's your place? I will tell you one more thing. Until I was willing to look at what happened to me and what I did as well, I didn't get free. He required of me that I look at it straight on and nothing be hidden. You may have circumstances in your life. You may have reactions to certain people. You may have reactions to certain circumstances. You don't know why. See what the Lord is asking of you so that you can be set free. God bless you all. Thank you for hearing my story. It's not a story I tell lightly. It's not a story I tell easily. It's a story that has cost me a lot, but it has given me a lot. So thank you, and God bless you. I hope to see you tomorrow. Shalom.
Imagine having a rich personal relationship with God while being raised by atheist Holocaust survivors and cared for by a babysitter who practiced Satanism, the same spiritual force that created Nazism. In her book Freedom, True Freedom Lasts Forever, Wendy Cohen shares her encounters with Jesus in the midst of the trouble around her. With a desire to bring her parents to know Christ, Wendy vowed to shine the light of God's love on their darkness. Available at Amazon, your local bookstore, or at trilogy.tv.